Telecast.
Hi, I'm Justin Crosby, and welcome to another Telecast. On this week's show, I'm chatting with Multistory Media's creative boss, Anna de Moraes, on her career journey, how the business is surviving the downturn, and why we're at a turning point for the industry right now. Plus, I catch up with RX Global's Entertainment Division Director and Director of MIPCOM Cannes, Lucy Smith, on what to expect from this year's mother of all content markets. It's coming right up on this week's Telecast. My first guest on this week's Telecast is Anna de Moraes, Chief Creative Officer at Multistory Media. Thanks for joining us on the show, Anna.
Thanks for having me.
It's lovely to have you on the show. Finally, we met up in Edinburgh at the TV festival a few weeks ago. So it's fabulous that I've convinced you to come on the show and have a little chat. We often start the show with new guests who are coming on by delving a little bit into their background and finding out how they got into TV. So tell us about your career journey and how you made it to be Chief Creative Officer at Multistory Media.
So I'm from Brazil. I did journalism in uni and wanted to be a journalist. I also wanted to live abroad for a bit. So when I graduated, I moved to the UK because it seemed like a good idea. Didn't really have a big plan. It was meant to be for a year or two. I came with my husband. We got married and moved. And I was writing for a Brazilian newspaper and trying to get a job in the press here and failing miserably because my CV meant nothing. And, being foreign is quite hard, I think, to get a job in the media. And then I was 22 at the time. And back in those days, I still bought the Guardian, Media Guardian had the job section. And I saw a little ad that just said, "Do you like TV? Do you think you can come up with ideas for TV shows? Apply here." And it was for the Endemol internship scheme. Now, I thought, yes, I like TV. I have no idea if I can come up with ideas for TV shows, but I'll give that a go. So I applied for the scheme and I got in. They hired 4 people that year. It was me, Kat Lynch, and 2 others. And that was it. I kind of never looked back. I remember being blown away, just thinking, oh my God, you're going to pay me very little at the time, but still, you're going to pay me to try to have ideas for TV shows. And I was totally amazed by then, the fact that was a job and a career. And you have to have in mind that, TV in the UK was having a real boom. It was the year 2000. And Big Brother has just launched and you had like Wife Swap, Faking It. Reality TV was really booming. And it was completely different to the TV I was used to back home. In Brazil, we had telenovelas and long-running entertainment shows like Shiny Floor, studio shows that had been on for decades. And just the concept of new shows being launched all the time was completely new to me. The internship scheme was really good at Endemol. I was there for like a year and a bit, maybe. Then they put me on a production that I hated. I thought it was horrendous. I had to be on the phone cold calling people, blagging for prizes for a quiz. And I was like, oh my God, if this is production, I don't like it. I think development is my bag. So I approached a few other companies trying to get a job in development, and I was offered a job at 2020. And I really found a home there. I progressed really quickly. I got my first commission fairly quickly and then got the choir away. And I discovered Gareth Malone as part of that show, won a BAFTA, then won another BAFTA. And within 3 years, I had become head of development there and just never looked back, really. I was there for almost 10 years. And then from then on, went to other jobs. And now I'm here at Multistory.
That's a great career path. Why do you think that they chose you for that initial internship scheme at Endemol?
That's a good question. I have to ask. It was Adam Adler and David Flynn were running the scheme at the time. I don't know. I don't know if it's about confidence or just, you had to send in an idea for a show and then we did group exercises and brainstorms. And I'm a Capricorn. I'm always kind of, quite vocal, and I like to organize a group and I like to be in charge, I suppose, if I can. And I think I made my voice heard. So I clearly made that impression. I don't know.
Yeah, well, obviously you did. within a short order. You're working on BAFTA-winning productions, which is fantastic over there at 2020. So for those who don't know about Multistory Media, tell us about that business and how that business has grown, and because it's part of ITV Studios, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So basically, what happened was Tim Carter was brought in about almost 6 years ago now to rebrand what was then called Shiver, and was very much part of ITV Studios, almost saying like as an in-house label that had lots of like long-running returning shows, but was not very successful at winning business outside of ITV. So they hired Tim, and I knew Tim from 2020. We worked together there for almost 10 years, where we launched First Dates and The Choir and lots of other shows. And he got in touch with me and said, "Oh, do you want to come and join me and be the sort of," at the time, the first job was group creative director, I think it was. I jumped at the chance. I think Tim and I have a really great creative partnership, and I was looking for a move. So it felt like a great challenge, and a different type of challenge. What would it be like to take a label that was very good at what they did, but had a sort of quite limited range of shows, and trying to change its reputation and broaden the range of clients. It felt quite exciting. So we came in, we rebranded as Multistory, and set out to try to grow the number of clients the label works with, and to do more contemporary shows, I think it's fair to say, which we managed to do. So we quickly got a show with BBC One away, which was called You Are What You Wear, which was a sort of fashion makeover show with Ryland that launched during the pandemic, which was a bit unfortunate, but still it was great. It was the first time, Shiver had never made a show for BBC One before. So it was great to open that door. We got The Big Flower Fight commissioned with Netflix. And again, I think that was the first unscripted commission by an ITV Studios label with Netflix. And that was great. And now we work with everyone. We work with Channel 4. We still work very much with ITV and work with the BBC. So we've succeeded in doing that, in really broadening the range of customers we have and the types of shows that we make. In terms of the shows that the label made before, it's Martin Lewis' Money Show, Tonight, Peston, Come Dine With Me, Paul Grady for the Love of Dogs, Pride of Britain. They are all still running and going strong, which is great. But then we have all the new shows that we launched, like You Are What You Wear and Big Flower Fight. So we made Scared of the Dark for Channel 4, which is a big new reality show. And we made Project Icon, which was a big talent show for BBC with Jason Derulo and Becky Hale. And we make Dubai Hustle for BBC 3, which the second series is about to air next year.
Certainly saw Scared of the Dark. That's made some waves this year, and a lot of people have been talking about that. How's that done internationally? Is that as a format? Is that travelling yet? Because I know it's only just started to be pitched out into the international market.
Yes, it has. So I don't know if I can announce where, because I'm not sure if it's being announced, but it's definitely, being the contract has been signed in at least one territory. And there's a lot of other places that are keen. I think there's a little bit of, they always like to know whether it's being recommissioned in the UK. And like many other companies, we are waiting at the moment for a decision by Channel 4 that seems to not be able to make decisions at the moment while they're waiting for the ad market to stabilize. So we are, on a waiting pattern at the moment, like many others, I know.
That's right. Well, we'll come back to that in a second, if you don't mind, and talk a little bit about how Multistory has coped through this very difficult time. Tell me a little bit about Multistory and how it's made up, because you've got 3 offices in the UK, haven't you?
Yes. So we have London, we have Manchester, and we have a presence in Cardiff as well. So out of London, we make Peston, we make Martin Lewis, we make Come Dine With Me, Paul Grady for the Love of Dogs, lots of other shows. And then in Manchester, there's Tonight, Dubai Hustle, Unbelievable Moments Caught on Camera, and other shows as well. But those are the main ones out of Manchester. And then from Cardiff, we make a lot of true crime documentaries. We make a series for ITV called Code Blue, which is access to Welsh Police Force. And we make a lot of the drama companions for ITV. When they did Des, we make The Real Des. That's made out of a a sort of partnership between Cardiff and London as well.
And how does that work? I've always wondered, a company that has got regional offices within the UK, presumably you sit over all of them in terms of chief creative officer. How do you decide which company pitches to which broadcaster in which office?
Yeah, we're very joined up at Multistory. So we have Kerry Aston, who is our creative director in Manchester, and we have Simone Hayward's creative director in London. And then Mike Blair is our head of current affairs and documentaries, and he really manages the Cardiff unit. And we get together every day. This is a sort of habit that started during the pandemic, actually, that every morning we have a development catch up where we all talk, we all look at the slate and we know which ideas are being discussed, what's being pitched, where, by who. And often it's about the relationships, like who has the relationship with the commissioning editor that makes the most sense for us to go and pitch this first. And sometimes it's about where the idea originated, but it's not competitive. We're all in it together. We are all incentivized for the whole company to do well. So it's not like some other companies where I've been, where it's a little bit more siloed, that everyone is incentivized just on their own commissions, which leads to, now this is my idea, I don't want it to go elsewhere. We don't operate like that. And I think that's the best approach, really.
So it's all factual at a Multistory Media.
Yes, it is. Yes, it's unscripted. It's factual and entertainment. Sorry, I should say. We have two big buckets, if you will. So within factual, we have all the current affairs, a lot of documentaries, and the kind of popular factual output, like For the Love of Dogs. And then in entertainment, you have Come Dine With Me, and then you have Scared of the Dark and All-Star Musicals. And then we also have a kind of reality slate that sits kind of in between factual entertainment, which is not helpful when I say we have the two buckets, but things like Dubai Hustle, it is access and it's real people, but it's produced with a lot of entertainment values.
Right. And just coming back to your earlier point about, waiting for decisions on commissions by various broadcasters, UK broadcasters and often UK commercial broadcasters, everybody's in the same boat. And there's obviously been a huge slowdown. We were talking about advertising on connected TV last week, and we were talking to Alex Brownsell, who was looking at lots of projections and work that they've done about advertising in TV. And it sounds like 2024, it's coming back. First quarter is starting to look a little bit positive. So hopefully we will see a return to growth in terms of certain commissions going ahead. How have you coped? Most people that I'm speaking to in the industry, it's been since, January or certainly since spring that it's been very, very quiet and a lot of projects on hold. How have you coped with that at Multistory?
It's really tough. We are lucky at Multistory that we have a lot of returning series that are still in production. So it's not like we have a totally quiet office because, Tonight's still happening, Peston's still happening, Martin Lewis happening. We have things happening at the time. And we just finished on Fresh Cut, which is a series of documentaries made by first-time Black directors for Black History Month for ITV, and that's been great. So we've had all this activity happening. But on the development side and the new business side, it has been really slow, and it's hard to keep the team motivated because you pitch an idea and it's like, yeah, that's great, but there's no urgency. Most commission editors are not able to act on anything at the moment. So it feels like you're kind of going through the motions a bit. You pitch an idea, you do the work, but it's like there is no deadline, there's no routine. Yeah, there's no hope of a decision. So that is hard, but I think that's the only way is to keep developing and to keep thinking of ideas, because if you come up with something that's really, really exciting, that in itself is a quite invigorating process. And, you get excited, you do, at least now we have the luxury of time to make the best possible materials. Let's make an amazing scissor tape. Let's attach talent. Let's make an amazing deck so that when the taps turn on again, we are good to go. And you have to keep those relationships going and you have to keep the conversations going because you want to be front of the queue for when things start moving again.
Well, I guess there's a bit of psychology involved as well, isn't there, really? Because, Have you ever had the discussion about this is a great idea, we're really excited about it, let's hold it back. Let's hold it back a bit until we pitch it, because if there's an idea that you're pitching and you're all excited about and it's not going to get commissioned for 6 months, let's say, is there a danger of that idea being a bit stale in 6 months, when a commissioner finally gets the budget and they go ahead to go and they'll look at it and go, and then there's another new idea comes to them in 6 months and they're like the shiny new toy, if you like. I mean, how does that play into your decision making?
Yeah, it's a real balance, because I think there is that danger. I think sometimes we feel, oh gosh, we've been talking about this idea for months now and has all momentum gone out of it. But then at the same time, there's the danger that if you wait too long, when you go in, then they might say, oh, we've already been talking to another indie about something in this area for months now, so we are going to prioritize that. And I think it's a sort of spread betting moment, I suppose, where you have to judge the relationship and kind of judge how different commissioning editors might work. I think there are commissioning editors that will nurture an idea and keep it, alive and keep working with you on it. I think others might just put it in the drawer and then the life is gone out of it. So I don't have a magic answer, I'm afraid. I think it really depends on the idea and on the commissioning editor and how best to play it. Who knows?
Yeah, well, that's it. I guess, again, it's down to relationships, isn't it? And judging the person, and shuffling your cards, shuffling the deck, I suppose. And now it's time for Anna's Story of the Week, the TV industry news story that's caught her eye in the past 7 days. Anna, what's your story of the week?
It's a piece in Deadline that says the time is right to create an alternative to television. Bodhi Tree Systems, Uday Shankar on India's digital revolution. And it just talks about how in India they are setting up the streaming service as a sort of alternative to television. And I just think that's the first, or one of the first of many probably to come, because I really don't think TV as we know it is very sustainable. And I was talking to a few people about this, and then I saw this piece and I was like, oh my God, it is happening already. Of course it is. And I think in the UK, we are a little bit with our heads in the sand, or, our hands or in our ears going, la, 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 no, it's all fine. And I think the truth is, will the ad market bounce back? It might a little bit, but it's never going to go back to what it was before, because the truth is viewers are just not watching television in the numbers they were before. So why would advertisers, put their money on TV, where there's social media, there's gaming, there's so many other places where there are more young people, there are more people, just full stop. And I think we're kidding ourselves to think that TV as we know is going to go on forever. So I think this is a sign of what's to come. And I think someone in the UK needs to start working on this. And I know there was Quibi before the pandemic that tried to launch this sort of short form platform, and it didn't quite work. But I think there will be more platforms that will start emerging, and one and more will stick and will start shifting the dial. And I think that's exciting. I think that's a good thing. I think it's still weird how, Channel 4, iPlayer, ITVX, all these channels have launched digital platforms, but they're just repeating television. They're still commissioning to slot. They're still commissioning 60 Minutes. They're still very traditional in what they are doing. Channel 4 has 4.0, but that's again a different thing. It's very youth skewed, isn't it? And kind of very short form. There's something in the middle that's probably going to emerge. That's not quite traditional TV, but it's not super youth focused, very short form. That will just be an alternative to television as we know. And I think that's a good thing. It's scary, but it's also exciting. And I just wish there was more chat about this maybe happening in the UK.
That's really interesting. So you're talking about this downturn and the post-COVID slump that we've seen. Are you thinking that this is something a bit more fundamental in terms of the change that we're seeing?
Yeah, I do. I don't think it's a sort of temporary thing. I think the industry is changing and we're just going to have to change with it. I think just consumer habits are fundamentally changing and people are not watching terrestrial TV anymore. Those numbers are just going down and we're going to have to adapt. I think everyone will always want content, and that's good. If you're a storyteller, if you're a content producer, there's always going to be appetite for it. But I think it will be in different platforms and in different shapes, perhaps. So I think we're going to start seeing a real transformation of where people go for content, which means indies are going to have to adapt what they produce, how they produce, where does the funding come from. I think we'll see massive changes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so you're talking about the format of creative content that's been produced as well as the style of it, because for a certain extent, most people will always think there's going to be a demand for obviously a certain amount of live TV and also a certain amount of long form TV and long form content that everybody gets together to watch. But as you pulled out this story, this is very much focused about content on mobile phones and delivered for a mass audience, which is a very different proposition to normal television. The Indian market is very different. It's a huge population, and there's at the moment only the top tier of their society has been served, if you like, by streamers. But there's huge market that they're looking to access with a different type of content. What about multi-story and, for example, social first and digital first production? Is that something that you're looking to experiment and get in there and start to go direct to consumer yourselves?
Yes, we're not doing an awful lot at the moment, but we are starting to talk about it. But definitely looking into how to monetize our content on other platforms, be it YouTube or Facebook or whatever. And I think there's a lot more than we should be doing and that we definitely want to do. I think it's early days and you don't want to sort of, run before you can walk or whatever the saying is. But we are definitely looking at what can we do with what we make. We are always looking at how to promote the shows on digital, definitely. But I think we do need to go one step further and start thinking, okay, how can we produce things for other platforms? What are the opportunities? I don't think we are doing enough of that as it is. I think we are going to start looking for more alternatives. I think everyone is.
It really feels like that's the direction of travel now, doesn't it? At the same time that this downturn has happened, we've been talking about AI, and everybody in the TV industry has been talking about AI. And it's almost like a lot of production businesses have started to look at their systems and their workflows and seeing how AI can help them in the future with this potentially new market that's developing. Is that something that you're very much across at Multistory? Is AI going to be a central part of your development and production process?
Yeah, I think ITV Studios as a whole is doing a lot of work on AI and how it can help with editing and, production and all of that. So we're definitely keen to use it as a tool in whatever way is helpful. In terms of development, we use it to generate images, sometimes for decks. And I think it can be useful for research if you want, examples of, just gathering facts. You always need to double check because, we've learned AI lies. And if you ask for 10 examples of something, it will give you 10 examples, even if it's made up some of them. So I think it's really important for the teams not to take whatever, is given by AI as truth, because it's not. I think it can be really helpful for brainstorming, again, to give you some starting points or, some initial top lines within areas. But I think it's, as of now, it's not going to replace a team. And I think it doesn't really come with a point of view. And I'm not scared that I'm going to lose my job to AI just yet. I think, there is still very much a need for people to be gathering whatever information you get, be it through AI or traditional research, and then do something with it.
And now it's time for Hero of the Week, where Anna gets to nominate the person that she wants to crown a hero, and the opposite, obviously, who she's telling to get in the bin. So, who's your hero of the week, Anna?
I'm going to say freelancers as a sort of category, because I just think at the moment it's so hard. And if you can keep going and stick with the industry, you are a hero, because it's really depressing. And I've never known it this hard before. And I've always been really lucky to not be a freelancer. I've always had a sort of long-term contract. And to be honest, I think if I was a freelancer now, I don't know if I would have the kind of resilience to to stick with it and not know when the next, job's coming, when the next paycheck's coming. So I think credit needs to be given for those that actually can make that happen, because our industry doesn't work without them. And it's really, really hard at the moment.
Yeah, we're losing a lot of very talented people, I think. The industry is, a lot of people are leaving it, never to return, I would imagine. People that are sticking to it, if it's only some sort of scheme or something to help people out, right, during these very quiet times. And how about who or what you're telling to get in the bin this week, Anna?
I'm going to say the government, only because as a whole, the Tory government, I think, again, like we have the TV industry is in a really sticky moment. But then on top of that, the whole country is in a kind of really bad place. I just feel the past 5 years or however long they've been in power is just being a combination of Brexit, scandal on top of scandal. It's just like when I chose to come to the UK, it really felt like, oh my God, this is one of the best places on earth. It's compared to Brazil, it's just miles ahead in terms of everything, opportunity, the policies, everything. And now it doesn't quite feel that way, if I'm very honest. I think if I was now deciding where to go, if I was to leave Brazil and go somewhere else, I'm not sure the UK would look like that, that inviting. For one, you have the likes of Suella Braverman not wanting immigrants like myself to come anyway, so it doesn't feel very inviting. And then the whole, situation isn't great. So I'm hoping we'll have an election soon when hopefully things will get better, but we'll see.
It does feel like a bit of an exhausted government, doesn't it? There's sort of staggering towards the next election. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Who knows if the next lot, if it is another lot that comes in, if they're going to be any better. But it does feel that the days of cool Britannia feels a long time ago, doesn't it?
They really do.
Anna, thank you so much for joining us. Really fascinating to chat with you and great to hear about Multi-Story Media, and good luck with everything. Let's hope the commissions start to flow through as we get towards Christmas and into the new year. Thanks so much for spending some time with us.
Thanks for having me, Justine.
My next guest on this week's show is Lucy Smith, Entertainment Division Director at RX Global and Director of MIPCOM Cannes. Lucy, how are you doing?
Hello, Justin. I'm doing really well, thank you. Lovely to be back. I feel like I've got a regular spot now. So, I'm looking forward to our chat.
You have actually. I'm probably have to work it out. You're probably our most frequent guest if I put the numbers together. It's brilliant to speak to you for our regular pre-event chat. How are things shaping up for this year's MIPCOM?
Oh my goodness, there is so much going on. Let me just give you a bit of an overview. So, I mean, you know that MIPCOM is obviously what we like to call, it's the world's greatest gathering of TV and entertainment executives. And the big thing is coming from all over the world. And when we say that, we're looking at, and it's always difficult to be really precise, but we're looking towards 11,000 execs coming together from, for sure, more than 100 countries. And I don't like to get too hung up on numbers, but I mean, I think that just gives that sort of unrivaled scale that MIPCOM can give. It's also really important to focus about not only the numbers, about, who's there. It's a real sort of who's who of the industry. And I think that, especially right now, is really important for us to underline, because it's, a moment to meet with all of your peers from around the world, but also be inspired by some of those sort of C-level execs coming. And it's, the time of year you come together, take the temperature, see the trends, and sort of get ready for either the year ahead or the rest of the year. Depends how you organize your year, let's say.
That's a strong number. That must be one of the biggest since before COVID. Is that right?
Yeah, no, it is. It's definitely bigger than it was last year. It's the biggest since pre-COVID, absolutely.
And out of those 11,000, how are we looking for buyers? How many buyers are you expecting on the Croisette?
Excellent question. Very important to our MIPCOM participants. Yeah, we're expecting around 3,500 buyers coming from all the major broadcast networks, platforms, global and regional streamers, etc. And they obviously will get to meet with the more than 320 exhibiting companies. So, yeah, it's going to be a very, very busy marketplace. And I'm already hearing lots of people saying their schedules are already almost full. So, lots of planning is underway.
Out of those exhibitors then, Lucy, how about people that are coming new to the market? Because that's always a key number, isn't it? How many new businesses are coming? Because we're seeing lots of change in the industry. We're seeing the rise of AI, we're seeing fast channels, and we're seeing, lots of new developments in terms of technology and streaming. Are we seeing many new companies amongst those 320 exhibitors?
We do have, and it's more than 50 new stands, so coming from new companies, and they are, for some of them, certainly representing what you were saying there. So there's quite a lot linked with fast and some new tech. So what's wonderful is however much the industry has changing models and has to go through these kind of transformative times. I think the TV industry really does show it's always, resilient, and there's always renewal. So, yeah, a lot of new companies coming. So that's very exciting to watch.
I see China's Country of Honor, which is great to see China coming back in force, really, for the first time in a number of years.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a great time. I mean, for us, we mustn't forget China is the second largest TV market in the world after the US. So, always very relevant. They have not been back at MIPCOM or anywhere really in strength since before COVID. So we did decide, we worked together to find the best context for them to come to the market. We're expecting more than 300 delegates, and that's representing 100 companies. So, I mean, that's a strong showing, and they really are going to they want to showcase their latest content, and we know that there's a lot of creativity in a territory as sort of important as China, and also really talk about the opportunities for international partnerships. We're having some masterclasses looking at what some of the partnerships that have been successful, so looking at what has worked and opportunities to work together, because that, I think, China is a difficult market for many companies. And of course, we're really delighted to be welcoming a keynote from Tencent Online Video CEO, Mr. Sun. And I think a lot of people would be really interested to hear what's going on in the world of Tencent.
Now, I see you were in New York at the UN recently, Lucy. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was actually invited by the UN. We have been working with the European branch of the UN for several years. And in 2020, we launched an SDG award. So that's an award to reward media companies who are working to support sustainable development goals through either their programming or from behind the camera. So we've had various winners. This is an award that takes place at MIP TV. We've had Sky, we've had most recently Silverback, A&E, a wonderful company called Junk Couture. And yeah, I was invited to be able to announce the first global call for entries for our next MIP SDG award. So the actual call for entries is open from November. During MIPCOM, we're going to be meeting with potential partners to find new ways to promote it. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it, because 2020 was the beginning of the decade of action for these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which I think most people must know about by now. We are only at 15% of achieving those goals. Now, that is a really disappointing level. And we have until 2030. And that was our commitment to work with the UN. So we were very excited. And it was a big honor for me to be able to talk there in what they called the SDG Summit. And I had two of our previous winners who were on stage with me. So Silverback, an amazing factual production company, which everybody knows, and Junk Couture, who have an incredible competition bringing young people together around renewables, fashion. So yeah, it was a really, really good opportunity. I mean, and anything around this sustainability, which obviously the SDGs cover, also all things concerning diversity and inclusion as well, which I think everybody has noticed at MIPCOM is something we do cover and talk about in a big way.
So MIPCOM's known for having all the major studios there, and they're out in force again this year. We're perhaps starting to see a little bit of a shift there away from going direct to consumer, because we saw the rush of a lot of the studios just to launch their own streaming services as a result of COVID, and perhaps that hasn't panned out quite as planned for a lot of these businesses. And we're maybe seeing a little bit of a shift back to more third-party sales and distribution. Are you getting a sense of that as well?
Absolutely. For us is a kind of really important theme of something that's really going to be very present at the market. So third-party sales and distribution, for us, we're seeing it has sort of never been so important and more vibrant. And I agree. I mean, the assumption was that, streaming would in some way upend distribution. And I think, what we're seeing is that the studios are open for business, as they've been saying, and that they're finding a way to not only coexist but really to sort of flourish together. So I think that it's a wonderful time for a global market like MIPCOM to be taking place with these new dynamic and vibrant market. And also that was part of the reason, and we were absolutely thrilled to be able to honor Bob Bakish, the CEO and president of Paramount Global, as our personality of the year, because that's the perfect example of a company that is exactly having third-party sales and their streaming platform coexist and find complementary ways to manage their rights.
And talking to streaming, we're seeing the return of the Fast and Global Summit on Tuesday at MIPCOM. That also happened at MIPTV. There was an edition at MIPTV. So what can we expect that's going to be different this time around?
What MIPCOM will always bring is the kind of broader, bigger market and some of the bigger players. And I think, there's no sort of irony in saying that the fast market moves really fast. So in any case, there is a need to discuss this subject even more and really focus on it from this international phase of growth. So I think it's really about what's happening 6 months later, being able to hear from some of those key players about what's next. And always, as I'll always sort of hammer on about, it's about looking at those, 100 plus countries who attend the show. We've got some of the really most important companies right now involved in it. And our presenting partner this year is Amagi, which it's really sort of probably the leading provider of solutions for a lot of the companies who are involved in FAST, and the co-founder Srini Kar will be speaking. And then there's so many other big, our big sort of studios who are involved in important ways. Like we've got Jeff Schultz talking from Paramount, Jens Richter, who's hugely important in this area at Fremantle, Mark Garner, who just recently was up again at A&E Networks. And we'll have an update. So we'll have, Evan Shapiro will be unveiling a new FAST map. Those kinds of moments, you don't wait 1 year for that. You need that October boost of what's happening in the global fast arena.
I think what a lot of producers are asking is, when's original content going to be coming to FAST, and when can that ecosystem start supporting original commissions? So maybe we'll see some developments. Be interesting to hear from some of the big players about that. MIPCOM wouldn't be MIPCOM without big name keynotes and screenings. Talk us through some of the highlights of who's going to be on stage and what sort of shows we're going to see over the MIPCOM week.
The personality here, Bob Bakish, will also be presenting a keynote, and that, will bring us back to this sort of the importance of third-party international licensing models. And Gerhard Zeiler also will be able to bring that, subject to the forefront in his keynote. We also are very pleased to be able to focus on some of the big European groups who, we know how important, the industry has become more and more much broader with so many territories taking on such a bigger role. So we have Laura Fernandez-Espeso from MediaPro, Maxime Sada, who will be receiving the Variety Vanguard Award this year, the CEO of Canal+. And we're very excited to bring Chris Abrego along with Eva Longoria. And Eva Longoria, I know many people are quite excited about the idea of seeing her there. She's, now a real sort of multi-hyphenate, as we like to say, producer, director, as well as being an actor. They're all going to be able to talk a lot about what is happening in the industry, what is going on in some of their businesses. Those are the moments that help us to really, learn about the transformations of the industry and what's going to be ahead. And the most recent addition, we were very, very excited to bring Mo Abudu from Ebony Life Media, who's going to be supporting. She's obviously a hugely important entrepreneur in her own right. but she's going to be helping us to pass our message around diversity and inclusion, and she's going to be our keynote. She was previously a médaille d'honneur at MIP TV in 2019, so we're thrilled to have her back again, and she's going to be kind of like the opening before we start our Diversity and Inclusion Awards, which will be in their 7th edition, and I must mention them because they're hugely important to us. They will be taking place on the Tuesday just before lunch, so we're hoping a lot more people will be able to find time to get that in their diary, because it's such an important moment for the industry to share what is going on and for people to be able to be inspired by what other creators have been doing in their programming. And you asked about content. MIPCOM is about bringing the most new content together in one place at one time. And I think our world premieres this year will really show some of that authentic programming that can come from anywhere in the world again. And so this is always an important theme for us, and bringing the execs and talent to the glamour of Cannes and the red carpet. So we'll be featuring the very latest new Zorro from Media One and Sequoia, which will be bringing their lead, Miguel Bernardo, along with others, to walk the red carpet and to be there to promote this wonderful new show. Fremantle are bringing Alice and Jack, which is a very, very exciting, highly anticipated new scripted series. And Concordia, which is a true European co-production coming with Beta and ZDF from the team who brought us The Swarm. And they will be presenting their world premiere on the Tuesday at the market. So, yeah, absolutely masses going on, as you can see.
I'm actually scanning the program right now as you're speaking, Lucy, and I'm looking. The Treasure Box from Japan is back, which is great to see. And that was a sort of staple for years, wasn't it, of MIPCOM, an opportunity to showcase what's happening in Japan formats-wise. That's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're seeing Fremantle presenting Neighbours as well. So
I know.
Lots of good things from a content perspective there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know AI is one of the main talking points of the industry right now, and a lot of producers and media businesses as a whole are looking at AI and looking how they can incorporate it into their workflows. Interesting to know how this has been covered off in Cannes this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are staging a summit focusing on AI. It's called Unlocking AI. AI, obviously, disruptive technology that really does matter to everyone in the industry and beyond. We know there's a sense of fear out there. I think what's really interesting is that now we're coming after the pioneering agreement that was negotiated with the WGA and the studios. So hopefully that's putting some guardrails into place that will, be a starting point to help the creators in the future. So I think that will obviously be talked about a bit during this. For us, we try and take it from an angle that we're going to try and sort of demystify, but also be practical and demonstrate. So we've approached it from creative, production-led and regulatory standpoints, with key players in each area being able to speak. We've actually got a really interesting opening inspirational speech by a guy called Ross Goodwin, who is a creative technologist. He's coming over from the US, and I've seen some of his presentations. I think that will be a really cool sort of inspirational moment. And on the regulatory side, we've actually just managed to confirm, because the timing is really difficult because the European Parliament is going to be at work during MIPCOM. So we've managed to get Dragos Tudorak, who's representing the European Parliament, and he's going to be able to talk about the AI Act that's being discussed at the moment at the European level. So, we're trying to bring together those different elements, so creative, production and regulatory, and give people kind of a big picture of what does it mean for them, and hopefully they can take a lot away from that.
And MIPCOM's always a time for co-production, isn't it? Lots of people talking about co-production, and perhaps now more than ever, more and more pressure on budgets, more and more players coming together to make shows. How has that been represented at MIPCOM?
For us, bringing all subjects around funding, global productions and absolutely international co-production are just key. I think for executives, having this global network, whether it be commercial and creative, it's never been more important. Finding the right kind of funding, I think, is absolutely key. So we have reintroduced the Seaview Producers Hub that we launched last year at MIPCOM, and it is back, and there'll be a full program going on there for all execs who are interested in learning more, meeting more people. So yeah, co-production will be absolutely at the heart of MIPCOM.
And finally, we know MIPCOM Cannes is actually kicked off by MIPCOM Junior, essentially, the weekend before. And that's actually going to be starting even earlier this year. Tell us about MIP Junior.
Yeah, you're right. So MIP Junior really does remain the key meeting place for the kids industry, along with MIPCOM in October. So we're expecting to bring together about 1,000 of those wonderful passionate kids industry delegates from 60 countries. And we did decide, based on feedback, because we work a lot with our advisory boards, and our buyers last time when we were speaking to them, I guess it was around MIP TV time, were just saying, they feel they need more time. Kind of like some people, it's how long can one spend in Cannes, but they really want more time to be able to get together, network, screen before they get into all those meetings. So we're pre-opening on the Friday. So MIP Junior screening library opens from 2:00 on the Friday, and then there'll be like a happy hour, and we've got a kick-off keynote kind of state of the industry session happening there on that Friday afternoon as well.
That is early, Friday afternoon, the whole event kicking off. It's fantastic. Yeah. Lucy, thank you so much for giving us a run through of what's coming up for MIPCOM and MIP Junior. Always fantastic to see what delegates can look forward to. And I've just been checking the weather app as well. I mean, it doesn't go quite 2 weeks, but it's looking pretty sunny, certainly for the next week and a half. So just hoping that's going to hold out and we get our last bit of sunshine before winter in Western Europe anyway.
I hope so too. I've been looking at it as well, and it gets scary because you should never look too early because it changes so quickly in that little beautiful corner of France. So I'm hoping it will be sunny too.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Lucy, thanks again. We'll see you on the Croisette for MIPCOM and MIP Junior.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing you there, Justin.
Well, that's about it for another week's show. Telecast was edited by Ian Chambers and recorded in London. Next week, we'll be in Rome for MIA, exploring the market and chatting to some of the key players in the Italian content industry. Until then, stay safe.